Girlfriend, 28, female, lied and went to an event I wanted to go to without me. 30, male, and I don't know what to do. I'm not going to start out with the whole "our relationship is perfect" but thing that you always see on here. I'll admit this has been one of the hardest relationships I've been in. I still very much love her. She's beautiful, strong, driven, successful, and independent. However, my girlfriend is a dismissive avoidant to the extreme, and it's been causing a lot of issues in our relationship. She's in therapy, but that is mostly focusing on managing her OCD and related eating disorder. She has issues expressing her emotions, needs, and struggles with communication, commitment, and compromise as a result. We've been dating a little over a year. Prior to me, her longest relationship was less than 2 months. She usually shuts down and runs from relationships if she feels smothered, if her partner lets her down, or if she feels like she's being criticized. She does recognize this, and she's trying to work on it. But it's hard on us both. Both of us are big theater nerds. A few months ago, we had a trip to a city about 2 hours from us to visit her grandparents, and I got to meet her best friends from college for the first time. While there, we went to a show with her friends. I honestly had a great time. Her grandparents love me, and I got along really well with her friends. There was another show coming up in a few months that both of us have connections to. It was the first musical she ever saw with her grandparents, and I worked on a production in high school. I asked my girlfriend if we could go. I even offered to bring her grandparents and treat them to a nice night out, or we could go with her college friends. I immediately got shut down. She said that she didn't really like that show, and she didn't want to see it again. Fine, no big deal. That show was last weekend. We kind of had a fight on Saturday. I was about 15 minutes late to picking her up to hang out at a brewery, and she felt really let down. She's broken up with other people for similar reasons and gave the silent treatment all day. Eventually, I get her to open up, we apologize to each other, and have a decent evening at home. The next morning, she says that she doesn't feel great and wants to go home to rest. I drive her home and asked if she needed me to stay with her to take care of her or anything. Nope, she just wants a quiet day to herself. I tell her to let me know if she needs anything and headed home. I don't hear from her all day. Even when she's relaxing, we're usually trading memes and Snapchats of our cats, but she's not even opening my messages. Earlier that week, she had a migraine so bad that I needed to take her to the emergency room. And her sister just had a baby that's been having some health problems. I started to get really worried that something was wrong by late afternoon. So I decided to check her location on Find My. She's not at home. She's not even in our city. She's just leaving a restaurant and walking to the theater to go see the show that I really wanted to see. I assume she was with her friends again. The restaurant is a favorite of theirs. It's a nicer restaurant where they would have needed a reservation, and the show is a popular show. Everything would have needed to have been planned well in advance. I'm not worried about her cheating or anything. Her friends are married to each other, and she wouldn't be going with anyone else except maybe her grandparents. I'm just so hurt over everything. I really wouldn't have minded if she said she already had plans to go to the show with her friends. I just don't understand why she lied to me about not being willing to go, and why she lied to me to hide that she was going. I think she just didn't want to explain that she wanted to go with her friends and without me. I don't know how to bring this up to her. She's very sensitive to criticism. Even though I'm hurt, not mad at her, she'll probably take it as an attack. She also just doesn't really like me expressing my feelings to her in general and tends to shut down and withdraw. I'm worried that if I bring this up, she'll just break up and leave to avoid the conversation. She's threatened to do that before on much smaller issues. How can I bring this up without scaring her off? Now for the 1-month update. I wanted to thank everyone for their input on my last post. I spent a lot of time thinking about what to do. I made my post on Monday. We had a date planned for Wednesday. I decided I would bring it up then. On Tuesday, she was having a bad day at work, but she didn't really let me know. She texted me about an email that her boss sent her, and I thought my response was appropriately supportive and validating. I get a curt, "Is that all you took from that?" back from her. I probably should have thought a bit more, but I was dealing with my own work issues and a migraine, so I lazily just doubled down on my first response. She didn't respond. I didn't double text, but I did reach out via Snapchat and Instagram messages to see if she'd respond there. She didn't open any of my messages. Because I'm always trying to make excuses for her, I assumed she's busy and will respond when she has time. If you couldn't tell from the first post, my girlfriend really struggles with communication. Finally, 4 hours later, she responds with how she doesn't feel emotionally supported and she needs some space to think about the future of our relationship. I was super confused and asked what was wrong. I got the response, "I just had a really crappy day and you didn't even bother to call me." I kind of snapped at that a little. I asked why she didn't respond to any of my messages. Or why didn't she say, "Hey, I had a really bad day at work and need to hear your voice," or something like that. I pointed out that she never asks me for emotional support. She just acts out until I figure out what she needs, or until she gets frustrated and gives me the silent treatment. I didn't respond because it wouldn't have mattered. I cannot always be the one putting in the work. I explained for what felt like the 1,000th time that I can't read her mind. She needs to communicate her needs. She's intentionally avoiding work by refusing to open up and asking for help. I understand that's hard for her, but I can't make up for that on my end. I pointed out that I didn't realize she was having an awful day. I just thought she was dealing with regular work nonsense. She never tried to clarify how she was feeling or what she needed. I've been saying I need more effort from you for months and nothing has changed. This is the exact argument I didn't want to have, and you pushed it. I responded that I desperately want to support her, but she isn't giving me anything to work with. I gave her the space she asked for and told her I love her. The next morning she asks if she can come over after work to talk. After I confirm, she goes back to giving me the silent treatment. I soon found myself blocked on Snapchat and Instagram. Weirdly enough, it was this that finally made it click for me about how bad I'd been treated. I was so starved for emotional and non-sexual physical intimacy. She doesn't even like holding hands, let alone cuddling, and was an anxious mess from constantly walking on eggshells. But I'm stubborn. I loved her. I really wanted things to work and was still wanting to talk things out. She's pulled a similar stunt before, and we ended up staying together. She finally comes over. We start out going over our communication issues. Her big thing is that she feels that with a compatible partner, everything should come naturally, including knowing when your partner needs something without asking. She can get overwhelmed and just shuts down, and asking for help is also very overwhelming for her. Goes against her need to feel independent and self-sufficient, and feeds her fear of getting into a toxic codependent relationship like her parents. So she feels that this is an appropriate expectation to have. I explain that she's asking me to read her mind, that she's putting all of the emotional labor on me, and that isn't a realistic or fair expectation to have. She started to change the subject, which is a go-to of hers when she's uncomfortable with a conversation. We jumped around to various issues in our relationship. She randomly says that she doesn't feel like she really knows me. I ask her what she means by that. She says that she never knows what I'm thinking or feeling, and I'm too closed off, all false, and this definitely feels like projection on her part. It also hit on a deep insecurity that she didn't actually care enough about me to try to get to know me. She barely engaged in my interests and hobbies, rarely asked me questions about myself. If she did, they were usually negative questions. On the other hand, I made all the effort to know about the things she cared for. She then brought up that we've been dating for a year, but have no plans to move in together. Again, this hit on a major insecurity of mine. I had been trying to bring this up for months. I straight up asked her when she was having issues at her place, and she was thinking about moving. This was late July, around our 1-year anniversary. On the other hand, she gave me different answers every time I asked her what she wanted for her or our future, if she didn't try to change the subject instead. She's never brought up our future on her own. I always was the one to bring it up. I made it clear that the only reason we don't have future plans is because she doesn't seem to want to make them yet. I also said there is nothing wrong with that, but she needs to let me know if she's not ready for that step. Pointing all of this out to her made her go quiet. Not silent treatment quiet, but when things get too intense for her, she just starts to shut down and withdraw. It took a few minutes for her to come out of it. As she did, I explained that I felt that I was the only one really putting effort into our relationship. She asked me what I seriously wanted. I began in a kind of roundabout way, I guess. I explained that 6 years ago, I had to end an engagement to my fiancé after she became an hurtful alcoholic, then spent the next few years working 80+ hours a week at a job I hated while watching my dad slowly die. All things she already knows. What I was going to say next is that after going through that, I wanted to get a job that was better for my mental health, succeeded, and I wanted to find my person. Instead, I got cut off. She said that maybe I started dating too soon after my dad's passing. We started dating about 9 months later. This really threw me off. It took me a minute to recover. Before I could continue, she said that she just doesn't feel our communication styles are compatible. I asked her if she seriously thinks she has good communication skills, which she said feels like she does. I finally brought up the show. I said that I know that she went without me, and I explained how I know and my justification for looking up her location. This visibly shocked her, and she shut down again. I asked why she lied to me. Twice? No answer. I asked if she was cheating on me. No, she went with her college friends. She eventually confirmed that this was planned before I even asked to go. As I suspected, she just said that she didn't want to go to avoid what she felt was an uncomfortable conversation. I asked her if she felt like this was okay. Yes, she was worried that if she told the truth, I'd push her to let me go with them. I asked if I've ever tried to pressure her into doing something that she didn't want to do. Yes, I asked to watch movies that she doesn't like over and over. Again, a sore spot. I rarely got to pick what we watched, and she seems to intentionally avoid movies that are important to me. Over Christmas, I asked to watch Home Alone to continue a tradition I had with my dad. I wanted her to be there with me for support. She refused and found every way to invalidate my feelings. Have I ever pressured her outside of asking to watch a few of my favorite movies? No. I asked if I had done anything to make her feel unsafe opening up to me about any of this. No. She's just not the type to open up like that to anyone but her sister. How does she expect to have a serious relationship with someone if she won't open up to them? She feels like the right person will just make it easy for her. Does she feel like she needs to do any work on herself to be a better partner? No, because she doesn't really want to be a partner anymore. She said that our relationship was adding so much stress in her life to the point that it was affecting her job and eating disorder recovery. I'm not sure how true this is. She's been doing really well with both. Where is the stress coming from in our relationship for her? The constant obligations and me constantly asking for more from her. I brought up how much work I've put into this relationship. I chauffeured her around for 2 months while her car was in the shop, visited her in the hospital every day, and then slept on her couch and took care of her for a week while she recovered from surgery. I've paid for the vast majority of dates, given her money when she overdrew her bank account, helped her move on short notice, and I've always showed up for her when she's asked, and plenty of times when she didn't. I've also tried to model good relationship behavior and how exhausting and heartbreaking it is to not have that effort reciprocated. Instead, I rarely got to plan dates or pick what movies/shows we watched due to her refusal to compromise. I put in all of this effort trying to open up to her and to get her to open up to me. The few times I asked for her emotional support, even on small things like watching Home Alone with me, she refused. She didn't take any interest in my hobbies, even those that we had in common. We had next to no emotional intimacy, and I had to constantly forgive her for blowing up at me for little things, giving me the silent treatment, or lying to me, while I always admitted when I was wrong and showed her that I was putting in the work to grow with our relationship. I've been giving so much without getting anything in return, and I didn't feel like my expectations were unrealistic at all. I was asking for the bare minimum. My needs weren't being met. She again just said that she doesn't think our communication styles are compatible. I guess this is the hill she wanted to die on to end our relationship. I did let her know that I didn't want to end things, and I was still willing to work on us. I offered to get us a relationship counselor, but she refused. She was exhausted and couldn't do this anymore. At this point, I was exhausted too, and agreed to end things. She never cried or anything during the whole conversation. She just switched between being cold or looking uncomfortable. By the end, I was kind of a mess. Never raised my voice or got angry, though. A week or so later, I wasn't doing great. Made the mistake of getting drunk alone at home, then made the horrible mistake of trying to text her. I asked if she'd thought about us and if she was willing to talk. I got hit with, "Don't contact me. It's not coming across to you, so I'm being explicit. I want nothing from you except to never hear from you or see you again. I'm blocking your number. Contact me again and I'll be getting a restraining order. Go get some help and leave me alone." So that was great. I haven't been doing great. Between how exhausted everything made me and the fact that this relationship and breakup managed to hit most of my relationship insecurities, I've been kind of a mess. It's just been rough realizing how I hardly ever felt appreciated, valued, respected, or prioritized throughout our relationship, and how I never really felt like she saw me as a partner or us as a team. I realized that I made a lot of excuses for her, given her childhood trauma and this being her first attempt at a serious relationship. A lot of her points about her not knowing me or us not having plans for the future felt really gaslighty, and it's messed with my head a lot. That and the constant nitpicking kind of destroyed my self-esteem. I honestly felt better after breaking things off with my ex-fiancé than I do after this breakup. Oh well, guess I have a lot of work to do on myself. I'm sorry that this probably wasn't a satisfying ending. Am I the idiot for perming my daughter's hair without her mother's consent and ignoring the damage it could cause? I have a 4-year-old daughter. Let's call her Gracie. Gracie is half black, her mother being African American. Her mother overall handled all of Gracie's hair care and taught me how to do simple styles. But even those simple styles were difficult. My wife ended up going on a vacation with her friends to celebrate her friend's birthday, and my mother came over to visit. I hadn't done Gracie's hair in a few days, so it became nappy and unmanageable. When I tried to comb her hair, the comb broke. My mother said that I should get my daughter a perm so her hair would be more manageable, so I took her to a salon and got it permed. My wife got home, and when she saw our daughter, she was livid. She screamed at me and then at my mother for even suggesting that, but I think she's overreacting because it's just hair. Then she brought up our wedding. My mother had tried to get my wife to straighten her hair for the wedding, but my wife refused because she wanted her natural hair on her wedding day so she could be as natural as possible. My mother often comments on my wife's and daughter's hair, and I agree with my mother. But now my wife's telling me that perms chemically burn and damage hair to change the texture, and that I damaged our daughter's hair. Now she's thinking of getting our daughter's hair cut so her hair can heal from the damages. But I still think she's overreacting. Besides, I don't want my daughter's hair to be cut. She looks so cute now. Am I the jerk for straightening my daughter's hair without my wife's permission, even though Gracie is my daughter too? Now for a few important comments. I've read the comments and came to a realization about my marriage and my wife, and now I just feel horrible. My wife's mentioned in passing about her childhood and was always vague about it, but after overhearing a conversation between her and my mother-in-law, I just realized how much I truly messed up. My wife is dark-skinned and tall, and she got bullied for that along with her hair. She went to a predominantly white school, and that made her hate herself and her looks for a while. My God, my wording was horrible too. My wife is beautiful, and so is my daughter, and their hair isn't a problem. I'm the problem, and so is my mother. After hearing my wife's conversations about me and my mother, I realized that my mother's a bully, and I'm just a drone follower. My mother constantly picked on my wife and I just stood by and blindly agreed because she's my mom. But that woman who I married is my wife, and I should have protected her from my own ignorance and my mother's ignorance. I took something she took pride in and belittled it. I was too lazy to learn and took my mother's advice. Hell, my mother said so many cruel things that I didn't think twice of until reading these comments. She'd always make sure my daughter didn't play outside when she'd go over her house because she didn't want her to be darker like her mother. And that comment made me uncomfortable, but I took it as a weird joke. I'm cutting my mother off, and I'm going to apologize to my wife and daughter and start watching hair tutorials again. I'm also going to sign up for a hair braiding class when the pandemic has slowed down once more. God, I'm a horrible husband and father. When my wife is willing to talk to me, I won't force her. I'll apologize, and if she wants to leave me over this, it'll hurt like hell, but I'll understand. I've just pushed her to the sidelines for so long and couldn't even see it. I am the jerk, the biggest jerk here. I just got off the phone with my mother. My wife listened in on the phone call. I didn't realize she was in the living room with me until she put her hand on my shoulder during the call. My mother is, well, livid. She freaked out on me and threatened to call CPS when I told her I didn't want her coming around my wife and daughter, and refused to even try to understand what we did wrong. Then I mentioned the damage that the perm could cause to my daughter, and my mother said my wife was being a drama queen. When I told her my daughter might need a haircut because of this, she flipped out and said, "I won't let my granddaughter look like a bull DK," and I was mortified. She said she'd take my daughter from me and my wife and raise her the way God intended. That caused a screaming match. My wife put her hand on my shoulder in the midst of it and took the phone from home and told my mother if she comes to our home again, the police will be called, and then she hung up. I put our baby to bed, and then we talked. My daughter and wife are beautiful, and I don't understand how, for the life of me, I thought those horrible things. Maybe it was like that SNL sketch, Diet Racism. Hearing those things from your parent and just blindly listening, no matter how horrible it sounds. My wife is still mad at me, rightfully so, but she told me she isn't leaving me over this. She said I have a lot to learn, and that if I want this relationship to last, I need to open my eyes and realize that the world I live in is different from the one she lives in, and different from the world our daughter will live in. I'm horrified at myself and horrified at my mother. My father called a few moments ago, but I ignored the call. I'll talk to him in the morning about this. Thank you all for talking some sense into me, and I thanked my wife for staying with me even though she doesn't have to. Tomorrow, we are asking our baby girl if she wants a haircut. Knowing her, she'll want to get one like her uncle. He has these cool designs shaved into his head. If she wants that, she can have that. She's my world, and I refuse to ever be this ignorant and harmful to her again. My wife and I arranged for our daughter to spend the night at my mother-in-law's house, and couples therapy will be in the near future. The comment sections have certainly given me many perspectives on how horrible my words and actions are. I won't be doing any more replies or edits because this is a throwaway account. My mother has called the house multiple times from my sister's phone. My sister is 25 and lives for drama, so now the whole family on my mother's side is blowing up my phone with many mixed opinions, most of which are horrible. It's funny, the only family member whose opinion reflects this comment section's common consensus is the one who was disowned a few months ago. Well, actually, that's not funny. It shows how messed up my family is. Thank you all for these replies. No matter how harsh or mean they might seem, I needed this. Am I the idiot for ruining my brother's Le Creuset by trying to cook burgers? I am house sitting for my brother and his wife as they are out of town. I was making burgers on the stovetop, and they have their Le Creuset Dutch oven sitting on the stove. I thought it was a great idea to use the cover for the Dutch oven to cover the pan. I made bacon for the burger and used the cover with no issue. Once I put the burgers on, I realized I wasn't able to take the top off. I think it may have fused together with the caraway pan. There's basically a perfect seal. I've tried prying it open at room temp. after putting it in the freezer, fridge, running hot water over it, and putting it back on the stove again at medium heat. Is there anything I can do to save it? Now for a few comments. One commenter said, "I'm so sorry this has happened to you. I really can't think of much to help, and this may not work. Is it possible to unscrew the knob and see if air getting in the tiny hole could break the seal? If it's that, please keep us posted." I know the caraway are also oven-proof, as my daughter has a set and she bakes bread in her Dutch oven. I tried unscrewing it, but it just kept turning. It's already kind of loose, so I don't know. I'm going to let my brother and his wife handle it so I don't make it worse. The same commenter replied, "Good idea, maybe they can think of something. Again, so sorry this strange thing happened to you." Another commenter said, "Oh wow, this is kind of fascinating. I'm sorry it's happened to your brother's Dutch oven, but now we all know it's possible. Any chance you could add a photo?" I shared a photo link and mentioned that I hadn't used Imgur in years, so I asked them to let me know if it worked. A different commenter expressed concern, saying, "I'm concerned that you may have thermal shocked it by putting it in the freezer. That will cause cracks. Is it actually Le Creuset? If not, the easiest fix might be buying them a new one. Plenty of brands are only $30. I confirmed, "Yes, it's a meringue Dutch oven with a gold handle. I put it in there for maybe 15 minutes. Someone asked for an update, saying, "Any update? This is fascinating." I replied, "I'm just going to wait for my brother's wife to get home today, so I'm not going to mess with it anymore." Another commenter said, "Damn, that caraway must be a total POS. The lid wouldn't stick to something normally. I've used my domed Casadou lid over a grilled cheese plenty of times." I'm dying to see a pic. If you cannot add one here, post it in a Fix-It sub and attach a link here. Someone on Reddit knows how to unstick them. Oh, the image link totally worked. And wow, now I'm really stumped because I assumed it was stuck to a flat surface of a larger pan, not just conventionally used as a lid. Do you think it's friction, like maybe the rims wedged together? Or do you feel like it's a vacuum thing? Or just no clue? I replied, "I have no clue, but I would lean towards vacuum because the stove was only on medium-high heat. Either way, I'm going to let my brother's wife know, and if I need to replace it, I'll pay for it." The commenter suggested, "Also, try turning the knob counterclockwise. You won't completely unscrew it, but you will loosen it. If it's a vacuum, it might unstick." Someone else asked, "Have you given it a good thunk?" I responded, "Many a thunk were had. Do you think it's more likely to be pressure keeping it closed versus the material fusing?" The same commenter replied, "Unless there was some sort of plastic wrap or something on the pan, it is unlikely it could get hot enough for anything to melt and fuse. I think caraway are ceramic coated." I answered, "Nothing on the pan but bacon grease. I believe it's ceramic coated as well." Another commenter urged, "OP, I know you're taking one for the team, but please update us. New thread if the issue is solved. Inquiring minds want to know." I said, "Earliest it'll be solved is Thursday at this point, I reckon. I'll be sure to update." Now for the 5-day update. After having the Le Creuset Dutch oven vacuum sealed to a caraway pan for almost a week, my brother was able to separate them with no damage done. It's been in the fridge this whole time, so he let it get to room temperature, then heated it up on the stove. The pan expanded before the cover, and he was able to use a flathead and towel to separate the two. He sends me that pic and says, "Still hungry?" One of the previous commenters said, "That is amazing, and I'm so glad it had a happy ending. I was waiting for the update." Another commenter added, "I can't imagine the stress of this unfortunate event, but I'm glad it had a happy resolution. Maybe have a good laugh about it now that it's over."